Welcome to Parenting Decoded, a podcast for practical approaches to parenting. I'm Mary Eschen. It seems that many parents have to cross the threshold of their child wanting to quit an activity. It could be piano, basketball, soccer, violin, clarinet, tutoring, gymnastics, karate, whatever. Sometimes it's just private lessons that only impact your child and your family. Other time, quitting impacts a whole team, which adds a dimension of guilt either by your child or maybe by you, especially if you're the coach and your child no longer wants to play. In this podcast, we're going to talk about things to consider when running up against this issue in your own home. Then we'll go over some real-life situations to make it all a little bit more real. I just want to start out saying that the reason this is so tough is because there is no right answer. Yep, you really have to take a lot of things into consideration. It's not a one-stop shop. David Elkind, the author of The Hurried Child, he has some helpful ideas for parents who are dealing with children who think they might want to quit an activity. And I'm going to go over a few of them. The first interesting thing is that children under the age of 9, he feels, don't really have a clear sense of what they want. We should let them keep testing out different interests. Don't get too resistant to your child is wanting to move on. Be there to help them figure out how to try other activities instead. When my boys were little, there were some soccer games where some kids picked more daisies in the field than they ran. However, it didn't mean they were terrible kids or that they were quitters. They just plain weren't interested. One kid moved on to piano where he was amazing, and he still plays to this day more than 15 years later. Dr. Elkind also agrees that just because a child wants to quit one thing does not typically mean they want to quit everything all the time. Don't panic when your child wants to quit something. We can't really force our kids to love something that they truly don't. Trying to force kids to do an activity they truly hate can make them develop anxiety and make them even more reluctant to try other activities in the long run. So be careful about pushing too hard. When kids are embarrassed at their lack of performance in front of others, their anxiety can easily snowball to many other areas of their lives. You do need to involve your kids in the decision-making process for what activities they do, but also bear in mind that kids tend to want to do everything, especially when they're younger. Don't let your kids' enthusiasm in the moment allow you to overcommit them only to have to back out later. Karate or a new soccer team might sound so fun to do with their friends, but when you already have basketball and gymnastics with other friends, it might be a bit much, even if they promise and beg you to keep up with their homework and their chores and other activities. Keep in mind what's a reasonable amount of activities for your child. Maybe 3 sports and after-school Kumon for math tutoring and violin is too much. I know this sounds like a lot, but in Silicon Valley with our high-pressure environment, it's not unheard of. With older kids, you want to negotiate how long a period they will try a new activity before giving up. It does take time to master skills, so don't let them give up too early just because it gets hard. Brainstorm with them to see if there are other issues involved or other ways you can help them get over the hard parts. One family negotiated up front that their son would play an entire season of soccer, but he could quit soccer if he didn't like it after the season finished. This worked out well, especially since the mom was one of the coaches. You do want to check in to see if your kids want to quit because they're overscheduled, fatigued, or bored with an activity they've been doing too long, or if they simply need more time to relax and regroup. One family who poured in years of hard work on the baseball field was shocked when their son gave it all up his senior year of high school to pursue golf. That was a hard pill to swallow, but he did move on to another sport. He didn't stop moving. I do want to point out that in today's world, we have to be aware that if our kids want to quit something just to stay home and play video games, you want to be on your game and know that that might be what's drawing them. Allow them to choose wisely their activities and what they do with their newfound extra time if they do quit something. I know you all like it when I make my podcast more real, so I'm going to tell you a few things about my journey with quitting as a parent. It wasn't always easy, and whining is never fun, but things can turn out fine in the long run. Here are some things I thought about when my boys wanted to quit piano in early elementary school. First thing was, how miserable was my child and my family with the whining and complaining? I'm being totally honest. Whining and complaining was a hot button for me. Every week we had to nudge and cajole our kids to practice before the next lesson. My one son loved his instructor, but never wanted to practice. It's good not to give up too quickly, since sometimes a child does struggle when things get harder, and they really can push through to get to a better place. However, sometimes it's a lack of interest, talent, or there might be other competing issues. With my younger son, a year after the whining, we agreed to switch teachers to find someone more fun with more fun music selections. Another year later, that pretty much went through the same pattern. We had had enough. We agreed we were done. Some families do things like we did, where you switch instructors, use rewards, modify schedules for breaks or practice. And you really should try a lot of those different things. I tried many of those things, but they didn't last that long. But don't give up just because I did on piano. But think about it. The next thing I had to think about was who chose the activity in the first place. In my case, it was me who really wanted the piano lessons for my kids. It was something I never got as a kid. My boys were okay signing up for lessons when we started, and they were even excited. But I shouldn't have been surprised if they didn't like it, yet I'm still really glad I had them try it. The next thing was, is there a natural stopping point to exit gracefully? In sports, there often is a team that your child will be disappointing if they quit mid-season. In our case with piano, we didn't have a team, just our son. We figured out a good time to quit and just ended the lessons quietly. Later on, in high school, our son wanted to quit band in the middle of a season. Ouch, that was a tough one. After meeting with the band director and discussing things with lots of emotion and anguish, we agreed that although it was a hard decision for him to make, one that had lots of consequences, he could live with that decision. Having loving people around you when decisions like that are made that are hard is what being a good parent is all about. That was the role my husband and I played. Empathy is the best tool at times like those. The last thing was that when one thing ends, choose another. I love it when a family agrees to end one activity, and as part of the brainstorming, they allow and or help the child pick a new activity to try. Be careful not to let your child give up activities only to replace them with electronics or other sedentary activities, like I said before. In my house, the boys got to choose their activities, but they had to choose something, not nothing, otherwise known as electronics. I use my piano story here, but I want to let you know that that wasn't my only parenting journey into lessons that involved quitting or moving on. I had a star soccer player who, after investing in goalie lessons, in addition to club teams and such, decided he wanted to play basketball. No problem. We moved on to basketball school teams and club teams in addition to shooting lessons. It worked. He was great. But then he went off to college and he totally got hooked on rock climbing and never picked up a basketball. What's the theme? The theme was that he's active and athletic. Yay, he does play electronics, but at least he has the bigger picture of taking care of his health, and he truly enjoys being active. It was worth all those lessons and all that whining. He wasn't a quitter. He was exploring life, and we helped him on his journey by brainstorming and problem-solving issues when they came up upon him. It wasn't always easy, but life wasn't meant to be. In retrospect, would I have done things differently? No, my journey worked out just fine. My boys moved on and to start and stop many interests over the years. They didn't stop learning and growing, but did take a big pause with music. The happy ending with music was that both our kids, when they got to middle and high school, wound up knowing enough music from those early piano lessons that they could do some really fun things with it. One even got to march in the Obama inaugural parade, and they were both part of the marching in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade as percussionists. Today, one son is even writing his own music, investing his own money in lessons and equipment. Their journey wasn't a quitter's journey, and neither was mine. I hope you find this all encouraging as you are challenged with your kids when they want to quit something. If you could do me a favor and write a quick review of this podcast, that would be really amazing. My goal is to help as many families, and you can really help me do that by taking a minute to write a review. That's all for now. Take care and be safe. Have a blessed rest of your day.